about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live. It's all about you.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
Run, urgent delivery, run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
All right, here we go. You ready? Okay, let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you?
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do? I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show.
Checking the top stories, the Biden administration is making 400 million N95 masks available for free. It says the N95 does a better job than a cloth mask in stopping the Omicron variant. The N95s will begin shipping to pharmacies and health centers.
And New York's Attorney General's office says it's uncovered evidence that the Trump organization misled banks about the value of its assets. It wants a court to compel Trump to answer questions.
3 police officers outside Philadelphia have been fired after being charged in the death of an 8-year-old girl. An investigation determined an officer's bullet hit the girl during a shootout with teens after a football game in August.
In New York and San Francisco last night, friends and family came together to honor Michelle Go. Police say the 40-year-old was killed after being pushed in front of a New York subway train by a homeless man with mental health issues. Ironically, Go previously volunteered to help the homeless.
This Wednesday's weather: snow in New England, strong storms in the southeast, and bitter cold settles into the plains and Midwest today.
And finally, the college student who had an international flight all to himself.
Will Gans has this story all to himself.
There's nothing worse than an overcrowded airplane.
Help me.
So imagine Kai Forsyth's surprise when his plane looked like this. Kai had an idea something might be up while checking into his British Airways flight from London Gatwick to Orlando the night before.
Do you know how you choose seats when you're checking in? There was actually no seats that anybody had taken, so I was very confused.
And sure enough, the college freshman turning out to be the only passenger on the plane.
I was a bit confused at first, but they did say I could move around, do whatever I like on the plane. It felt like I owned the plane. It was very, very weird.
Kai setting up a little bed across 3 seats.
I was actually going to sleep on the floor. I did ask them if I could sleep on the floor, but they had the trolleys and they need to bring them back and forth.
And forget one measly bag of peanuts. Kai on cloud 9 with all the snacks he could handle.
I'd like to actually say thank you to British Airways for providing me with a great experience like that.
British Airways recently reinstating transatlantic flights late last year after the travel ban was lifted. But thousands of flights have been canceled due to a decrease in travel demand. But that all worked out in Kai's favor. The 19-year-old hanging in the plane's kitchen and watching movies with a flight attendant.
And the flight attendant at the back, if he does watch this, he knows who he is. He was basically my caterer for 8 hours. Very surreal, I have to say.
We reached out to British Airways for comment and to explain why Kai wasn't allowed to upgrade to a completely empty first-class cabin. We haven't heard back just yet. Even still, Kai's got a positive altitude about the whole thing. Get it? Altitude? Andrew, Faith?
They didn't upgrade him on the flight? Well, at least he had the whole row, the whole cabin to himself. Right now, on America This Morning, breaking news in the fight against COVID. The White House now making hundreds of millions of N95 masks available for free. The new effort, plus the new website where you can order free at-home COVID tests. The problem's already being reported.
Breaking overnight, significant evidence of fraud. A new claim about former President Donald Trump's family business and what the Attorney General of New York is now planning.
Happening now, suspect identified. The urgent search for the man police say randomly stabbed and killed a college student while she was working at this furniture store. The new images this morning.
Cracker Barrel paying up with a restaurant served to one customer instead of water.
Rare find. The extremely rare car found inside a vacant home in Georgia.
And love in the produce aisle, a very different kind of a dating show.
From ABC News in New York, this is America This Morning.
Good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm Andrew Dimberg.
And I'm Faith Abube. Mona is off. We begin this morning with 2 major headlines concerning the pandemic.
First, the White House is announcing a new plan to make millions of N95 masks available for free. The N95, of course, offers better protection than a cloth mask.
Also this morning, new research on the effect that remote learning is having on kids and their mental and physical health. ABC's Alex Brachet begins our coverage.
This morning, Americans will soon have access to high-quality masks for free. ABC News learning overnight that the White House will be taking 400 million N95 masks from the national stockpile and shipping them to pharmacies and health centers across the country. They should be available in some locations by the end of next week. It comes just as the government launches a long-awaited website allowing Americans to order free at-home COVID tests.
These tests are not easy to come by, so programs like this can make a big difference, but I hope it's just the beginning of something more robust.
Every household, no matter the size of the family, is limited to ordering 4 tests from the site. But already, problems are being reported. The website is rejecting some orders as duplicates for people living in apartment buildings because the system bases orders on your residential address.
I noticed it was saying that 4 tests have already been requested from this household. There has to be a way that we can work around this, that it has to know the difference between an apartment and the apartment building.
Omicron cases continue to overwhelm hospitals across the country. In Oklahoma, 1,000 hospital workers are now in quarantine, creating massive staff shortages. One hospital has 0 ICU beds available, with more than 100 patients waiting.
We have to care for patients in hallways, sometimes closets.
For people still refusing to get vaccinated, ESPN host Stephen A. Smith has a sobering message.
They told me, had I not been vaccinated, I wouldn't be here. That's how bad I was. I had pneumonia in both lungs. My liver was bad. and it ravaged me.
Meanwhile, with COVID cases among children tripling in the past 2 weeks, many students are being forced to return to remote learning. A new study reveals the toll that's taking. Researchers found school closures in 2020 led to more mental and physical health problems among kids, with anxiety and depression affecting more than 1 in 4 adolescents in some areas. Doctors say more screen time and a lack of physical activity are major factors to consider. Alex Brachet, ABC News, New York.
Alex, thank you. Another problem during this pandemic has been a shortage of blood. The Red Cross is now offering people who donate blood this month a chance to win Super Bowl tickets.
A major escalation in the legal battle between former President Trump and New York's Attorney General. In a new court filing, Attorney General Letitia James accuses the Trump Organization of engaging in fraudulent or misleading practices. She accuses Trump's family business of repeatedly misrepresenting the value of its assets to bolster its bottom line. James is asking a court to compel Trump and other Trump family members to testify as part of a civil investigation. Trump calls the investigation a witch hunt. Meanwhile, in a separate development, the House committee investigating the attack on the Capitol has taken its first direct action against a member of the Trump family. The committee has subpoenaed and already received the phone records of Eric Trump and Kimberly Guilfoyle, who's engaged to Donald Trump Jr. The committee also subpoenaed Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, and other former Trump attorneys and aides who pushed claims of voter fraud.
And this morning, Verizon and AT&T have agreed to delay today's rollout of 5G service near some airports after airlines warned of flight cancellations. The companies will temporarily limit the number of towers that carry 5G technology due to concerns that the signals could interfere with critical instruments used by pilots. The former head of the FAA says he's optimistic the problem can be solved.
The concerns have been well known for years. And again, this is a problem that can be solved through the leadership of the appropriate government agencies, the FCC and the FAA, the administration all working together to ensure that there are no safety concerns.
Well, despite all of this, some flight delays are still expected today, especially among international carriers as airlines try to navigate new restrictions.
An urgent diplomatic scramble is underway as the White House warns that Russia could attack Ukraine at any moment. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has just arrived in Ukraine for meetings today before sitting down with Russian officials on Friday. ABC's Ian Pannell reports Blinken is hoping to de-escalate the crisis even as Russia builds up more troops near Ukraine.
The Pentagon's saying there's still room for diplomacy to work, but 3 meetings last week producing no obvious signs of compromise, and now more troops are gathering at a different point along the Ukraine border. So yes, there may still be time for diplomacy to work, but it may also be running out.
Vladimir Putin has demanded Ukraine be blocked from joining NATO, but the U.S. calls that request a non-starter.
We turn now to the battle over voting rights in Washington, coming to a head today just as President Biden begins his second year in office with his poll numbers at a new low. This morning, President Biden marks 1 year in office with Republicans and Democrats in a standoff over voting rights.
This is about one party wanting the power to unilaterally rewrite the rule book of American elections.
Senate Democrats we are going to fight the fight.
A bill on the Senate floor would make Election Day a federal holiday and guarantee all voters can request a mail-in ballot. It would also force states that require voters show an ID to broaden the type of ID that's acceptable, a measure Republicans oppose. GOP Congressman Steve Scalise says the bill would also make it harder for states to purge deceased people from voter rolls.
Every year, as we know, people die, people move from place to place, and yet they make it very hard to clean up those rolls. So fighting for the integrity of the vote, making sure that everybody who's legally eligible to vote can cast one vote, that is what we as Republicans are fighting for.
Democrats accuse Republicans of stifling democracy. 19 states, many controlled by Republicans, recently imposed new laws restricting access to voting.
We cannot sit back and let one political party continue to unravel the threads of our democracy.
To pass the bill, Democrats need 60 votes or the support of 10 Republicans, which they don't have. And now 2 key Democrats, Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, are refusing to change the Senate rules to let Democrats pass the bill with a simple majority.
There's no check and balance because basically you just sweep right through and the same thing can happen if Republicans had everything.
All of this comes as President Biden holds a news conference this afternoon to discuss what lies ahead for his second year in office, with the pandemic still raging, inflation at a 40-year high, and his approval rating sinking.
The work is not done. The job is not done. And we are certainly not conveying it as. So our objective, and I think what you'll hear the president talk about, is how to build on the foundation we laid in the first year.
And in his first year, polls show President Biden has had an average approval rating of 42%, but it recently sank to 33%.
Dramatic body camera video shows first responders in New York entering a home as a raging fire burns next door. The fire in the Bronx broke out after what officials believe may have been a gas explosion. Rescuers brought several people to safety, but one person did not survive.
Journalist and fashion industry icon Andre Leon Talley has died. The best-selling author served as the editor of Vogue, and he was also the magazine's first black male creative director. Andre Leon Talley was 73 years old.
Time now for a look at your Wednesday weather. Well, an Arctic front is moving into the middle of the country, bringing negative wind chill readings from Montana to Iowa. And by tomorrow morning, the extreme cold will dive all the way to Texas, while bringing heavy rain, ice, and snow from the Gulf up to the Northeast. We're also tracking a storm for the end of the work week, which could either pull out to sea or bring snow to Northeast this weekend. Checking today's high temperatures, mild across much of the South. High 40s today in the Northwest, 76 in Miami. Coming up, a Cracker Barrel restaurant ordered to pay millions when it served to a customer instead of water.
Also ahead, the stunning discovery inside a vacant home what this rare Ford Mustang could be worth.
But first, new efforts to get much-needed supplies to Tonga after that deadly volcano disaster. Matt Gutman reports from Fiji. Next.
Good Wednesday morning, everybody. I'm Will Gans. America This Morning will be right back, but first, here's today's two extra minutes of news just for you that we couldn't squeeze into the show. We begin with that massive fire in Texas. Officials there now saying a wildfire that forced 250 families from their homes may be the result of a prescribed burn that got out of control. The fire is burning in a state park about 30 miles outside of Austin. The flames spread amid winds of 20 miles per hour. The controlled burn was supposed to be 150 acres only. So far, nearly 650 acres have burned. Next to that massive asteroid passing by Earth on Tuesday, the asteroid more than twice the size of the Empire State Building, coming within a close 1.2 million miles of Earth's orbit, speeding at more than 47,000 miles per hour. NASA has been tracking the object for decades through its planetary defense systems, scientists saying it posed no threat to Earth. Now to the music industry, the pandemic forcing the postponement, yet again, of the Grammy Awards. This year, the Recording Academy says music's biggest night will be Sunday, April 3rd. The show will take place in Las Vegas. It was originally scheduled to be in Los Angeles on the 31st of this month. And finally, not your average commute on a highway in Tennessee. The world's largest cast iron skillet being transported down the highway. The skillet measures over 18 feet handle to handle and weighs more than 14,000 pounds. The company that made it, Lodge Cast Iron, plans to open a museum featuring the pan and other cast iron products later this year. I'm Will Gans. Thank you so much for streaming with us. More America This Morning coming right up.
Back now, take a look at this. A car soaring over this bridge in Michigan. Police say the driver lost control, went up an embankment, and flew through the air before crashing. He's now facing drunk driving charges.
More help is on the way to Tonga after that powerful volcanic eruption that rocked the South Pacific. New Zealand says its first aid shipment could arrive by Friday. Hundreds of people are racing to clear ash from the airport in Tonga to allow supply missions to land. ABC's Matt Gutman is in Fiji with more on the eruption and the difficulty getting news from Tonga.
We're talking about the loudest, or one of the loudest, explosions since 1883, since Krakatoa. We still know so little about what is actually happening there on the ground because of that cable that was severed, which allows communications, both phone and internet, between Tonga and the outside world. Added to that, they have been basically COVID-free the past 2 years. They've had a single case. So do they now allow aid groups in who could also bring in COVID?
At least 3 deaths are reported since the eruption. NASA says it was more powerful than a nuclear bomb.
Los Angeles police have identified a suspect in the murder of UCLA grad student Breonna Kupfer. They say 31-year-old Sean Smith is homeless. He's now wanted for stabbing Kupfer while she was working at a furniture store. A $250,000 reward is now being offered. Police say Smith was seen walking down an alley after that attack.
This individual responsible for this vicious, senseless, and brutal crime, it walks amongst us. I'm convinced of that.
Well, police say the attack was random. Kupfer's father spoke out, blaming politicians for being too soft on crime.
Cracker Barrel restaurant has been ordered to pay a customer $9 million after he was served a glass filled with cleaning fluid instead of water. His lawyer says the Tennessee restaurant used unmarked water pitchers to mix cleaning agents. The jury took only 30 minutes to reach a verdict.
Well, we're getting our first look at a rare find by a classic car hunter. This 1965 Ford Mustang Shelby GT was one of only about 500 ever built. It was found inside a vacant home in Georgia, and it could be worth $300,000.
That is quite the find there. And coming up, new legal action from Britney Spears overnight.
But first, a new video of a daring rescue on a frozen lake.
We have 2 people in the water here. We got out.
She has a message for the women of America.
Making money is within reach.
She calls it the $1 million decisions to turn dreams into realities.
I went from making about $1,500 a month to $15,000 a month.
This morning, she'll show you her secrets on GMA.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know?
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it. Feel smarter.
Feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know. Now streaming on ABC News Live.
It's all about you.
It was an extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed to report to prison to begin a 17-year sentence.
They let him turn himself into jail with no escort.
No one thought he would run.
How do you evade capture for 25 years? How do you do that?
Now, join the search, following the U.S. Marshals as they uncover new leads in a global manhunt. Can you help catch this fugitive?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man? Listen and join the all-new hunt wherever you get your podcasts.
Let's do this! You wake up in the morning, darling, I'll be by your side. I'll be there, by your side. I'll be everything you want to. Hold up your hand, let the stars shoot again, let the light shine in through the dark.
Good morning, America.
National parks are incredibly safe places. A crime will happen.
My wife is fallen. She's in really critical condition.
At that time, I thought it was just a tragic accident.
There's still a lot of questions we need to ask.
There were small things that didn't totally add up.
This is 2 lives for Harold that have died now. I was shocked. Something's not right.
Now streaming on ABC News Live, 2020, true crime, cinematic, real-life drama, stunning, the unthinkable, follow the clues, The Hunt, true crime, 2020, now streaming on ABC News Live.
Police body camera video captured these tense moments on a frozen lake in New Jersey. First responders pulled 3 people out of the water. 2 fell in while crossing the lake. The other was actually one of their neighbors. His dirt bike broke the ice. Then he saw the moment the others fell in.
I see my neighbor, Emma. She comes ice skating and she saw me. So she's like, oh, it's like, help us. I mean, I'm watching her and she starts skating away and she disappears. She goes into the water.
After about 45 minutes, rescuers used ropes to get everyone out.
New details about the deadly shooting on the set of Alec Baldwin's movie. The company that supplied the props for the film is denying claims made in the lawsuit. Here's ABC's Rhiannon Alley.
This morning, the company that provided the guns and ammunition to Alec Baldwin's film Rust before that deadly shooting in October is firing back against a lawsuit from the movie's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. She was in charge of the weapons on the set. In her lawsuit filed last week, Gutierrez-Reed claimed Seth Kenney and his company, PDQ Arm & Prop, sold, distributed, and advertised its props as dummy ammunition and not live rounds, saying Gutierrez-Reed relied upon and trusted the defendants would only supply dummy prop ammunition, or blanks, and no live rounds were ever to be on set. But in a new statement overnight, Kenney's company calls the allegations that it provided the live ammunition on the set untrue, saying the lawsuit filed by Gutierrez-Reed is a thinly disguised effort to deflect blame and responsibility. Kenney spoke to ABC News last year.
It's not a possibility that they came from PDQ or from myself personally. When we send dummy rounds out, they get individually rattle tested before they get sent out.
He claims Gutierrez-Reed and her lawyers knew before filing their lawsuit that Kenney did not supply the ammo used in the shooting. Authorities are trying to determine how a live round got into Alec Baldwin's gun when it went off, killing cinematographer Helena Hutchins.
Someone put a live bullet in a gun, a bullet that wasn't even supposed to be on the property. Someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is.
In her lawsuit, Gutierrez-Reed claims she and Kenney previously had a falling out over an accidental discharge on the set, leading to animosity between the two, a claim Kenney did not address in his new statement. The attorney for Gutierrez-Reed claims she was sabotaged, but authorities say they have found no evidence of that. Gutierrez-Reed has not responded to Seth Kenney's new statement. Faith, Andrew?
Rhiannon, thank you. And Britney Spears could be facing another court battle. Her lawyer has sent a cease and desist letter to Britney's sister, Jamie Lynn, in response to Jamie Lynn's new book. The letter threatens legal action unless Jamie Lynn stops referencing Britney during her book tour.
Coming up, love in the produce aisle, a different kind of dating show.
Also ahead, one kid not happy with all the snow we're getting this winter.
An extraordinary story.
A computer salesman was supposed to report to prison to begin a 17-year sentence.
They let him turn himself into jail with no escort.
No one thought he would run.
How do they capture for 25 years? How do you do that?
Now, join the search, following the U.S. Marshals as they uncover new leads in a global manhunt. Can you help catch this fugitive?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man?
Have you seen this man? Listen and join the all-new hunt wherever you get your podcasts.
She has a message for the women of America.
Making money is within reach.
She calls it the $1 million decisions to turn dreams into realities.
I went from making about $1,500 a month to $15,000 a month.
This morning, she'll show you her secrets on GMA.
The most powerful stories of our time, anytime. Nightline.
World News Now.
And America This Morning.
The best new videos.
Breaking news overnight.
Your money and concerns about inflation.
The pandemic is not over.
The stories people are talking about.
You want to shake your legs? Don't. I was say. And what to expect in the day ahead.
From the top of the world, baby! ABC World News Now and America This Morning.
Weekday morning starting at 2 a.m. Eastern.
Up all night to keep you up to date.
All right, here we go. You ready? Let's do it.
Yes, it's the show America wants and America needs right now.
This is What Would You Do? Let's go. How are you? Yeah.
So what will you be watching Saturdays on ABC News Live?
What would you do? I guess I just found out.
The What Would You Do Marathon, 12 to 6 Eastern, every Saturday on ABC News Live.
My favorite show. Robin Roberts, George Stephanopoulos, Michael Strahan. Wake up with America's #1 most watched morning show. ABC's
Good Morning America.
Just eat it, eat it. Get yourself an egg.
Time to check the pulse. We begin with Daniel Radcliffe taking a giant leap from his days at Hogwarts.
Yeah, the Harry Potter star is set to play Weird Al Yankovic in a new biopic. The film is a Roku original that promises to explore every aspect of Weird Al's life.
Next, a match made in aisle 7. A grocery store chain is filming a new dating show.
Love at First Bite will be set inside a Hy-Vee supermarket where contestants will meet for the first time on a blind date.
They'll shop and then make a meal together.
And next, an uplifting story from California.
It's about a farmer helping another farmer. The well on Will Scott's farm ran dry during the drought, so another local farmer, Paul Buxman, who also happens to be an artist, offered to help Scott by selling some of his paintings and raised $30,000.
People like Paul, who step up and see there's a need, regardless of who you are. Just hearing his voice gives me hope, And boy, do we need hope right now. We have some good people in this country.
Scott has enough money for 2 wells. And next, another story about neighbors helping neighbors. This time, a football team helping after a snowstorm.
Snow in the Pittsburgh area canceled classes at Bethel Park High, so instead of football practice, they shoveled out their neighbors. And speaking of snow, one kid in Toronto has just had enough.
9-year-old Carter shared his thoughts about winter.
Tiring. I really wish I was in school right now.
Top headlines, next.
This is what being live is all about. This is ABC News Live.
We're surrounded by people squeezing into this bomb shelter.
Run, urgent delivery, run.
Not afraid to go there.
So my question, Mr. President, what are you so afraid of?
Breaking news, live events.
This is the moment.
Streaming straight to you, anytime, anywhere.
You just met one friend right here.
You're watching ABC News Live. Thanks for streaming with us.
I know what happened, and I'm not guilty.
Why the fascination with criminal trials? Figure out what's really out there.
She revealed she had murdered his family.
I know in my heart they did this.
It's the time of suspicion. The ending's really tough.
You don't know when the truth is going to be difficult to find unless you try to find it.
Admit it. These days, what you need to know
Seems to change just about every day.
What is it that you really want to know, need to know,
To help you not just get through your day,
but to make the most of it? Feel smarter.
feel better.
Feel happier.
Well, how about a third hour of Good Morning America?
GMA 3, what you need to know.